All right. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I thank you for being here today. Let me first acknowledge our outstanding fire chief for the amazing work that Chief Ford has done since he's been in Baltimore. And I also want to acknowledge a few people who are here. Charles Brothman, area manager of Wilbros. Did I get that right? T&D service. I didn't meet Mr. Brothman. You just told me you were Edward. You're not Edward and Mr. Brothman.
The name's Wilbur.
Okay.
I'm Edward Wilbur.
Wilton, right. So Mr. Brothman.
I'm over here.
Okay. I was like, wait a minute. So, all right. So I want to acknowledge Mr. Brothman. You're certainly welcome to come up here if you would like. You're good? All right. I want to acknowledge the representatives from BGE. And before taking a few questions, I want to make a few brief remarks. While there are so many reasons to love this city, for me, above all else, it's always been the people that we have here in the city. Whether you were born here or you've decided to grow with us here, you become part of our family here in Baltimore. And it is that uniquely Baltimore commitment to being my brother's keeper, my sister's keeper, that brings us together today as we celebrate the heroism of Mr. Keith Wilt. I'm going to try to remember. Mr. Keith Wilt, Mr. Matt Jeffy, Mr. Steve Wyatt, and Mr. Edward Wilton. These men truly represent the best of us. 3 weeks ago, when presented with danger, they all boldly leapt into the lion's den, putting their lives on the line for those who were trapped inside. They didn't think about their own well-being. They really stepped up, being my brother's keeper. I want to thank them for their bravery and their devotion to their fellow man. It's certainly an inspiration to me, and I'm humbled today by the opportunity to shine a light on what you've done and to simply say thank you to all of you. We had a tragic loss of Nazir Smith, who was taken by the fire, but we I think as a community have to take some solace that the numbers would have been even more devastating without your actions. As we commend the bravery of these individuals, we must also remember the dedicated men and women of our fire department who put their lives on the line every single day. Again, on behalf of the people of Baltimore, I wanted to thank Keith, Matt, Steve, and Edward for their heroism and for their commitment to the city. I want to bring up Chief Ford for remarks. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
On the afternoon of this event, January 13th, I responded to this call along with the rest of our crews. I was concerned about the incident, and I heard that there were children possibly trapped. Upon my arrival, I had an opportunity to hear what had happened. I arrived after Keith, Matt, and Steve and Edward evacuated the individuals and saved those the two children and brought out the adult. And I went to them, and just to let you know their mentality, I went to them, the first thing that they said to me was, "Man, you all are heroes." I said, "No, sir." I said, "Today, you all are the heroes." And they wouldn't accept it. So what we're looking at is some individuals that are very humble, who did great work to do exactly what the mayor said, to really step in for their brothers and sisters and to put their own lives on the line in order to make sure that this event wasn't even more catastrophic than it ended up being on January 13th. And personally, I would like to thank them as well. Gentlemen.
Thank you very much. And I acknowledge the chief and his team. I also want to thank our union representatives who are here with us as well. You have a lot to be proud of your team. At this point, I want to see if I can remember them one more time and give them the certificates of recognition to Mr. Wilt.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Jeffy. Mr. Wilton.
Thank you.
which leaves.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd also like to give them something as well.
Mhm.
The Baltimore City Fire Department has challenge coins. And if you all don't know what challenge coins are, it's recognition for being a part of an organization or to do great works. Today I'd like to recognize these 4 gentlemen as both being a part of our organization and doing great works.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all. Alrighty. I promised them that they would not have to speak, so I'm going to keep to my word and just thank
Very
you.
humble guys.
Yeah, I do want to appreciate it and thank you all for being here. I didn't know if any of the union reps wanted to say anything before we. You good? You sure? I'm going to mark this down on my calendar.
Can we ask who they are employed by? What's the name of your employer?
Wilbros.
How you
Will-
spell it?
WILLBROS.
Wait a minute, WILL,
BROS.
It's like Will Brothers.
okay.
Will.
Is it Will Rose
Yeah.
Contracting?
Yes. T&D Services East. Mr. Brothman is the gentleman that didn't want to come up in the back. He's the area
Accurately
manager.
identify who your employer, what were you doing that day?
Replacing gas main. Service.
Pardon me?
Replacing gas main.
Okay.
You're gonna make me break my promise to these people.
No, I'm just trying to get some information.
Okay, they're
Right.
PGE contractors.
Okay, gotcha.
Thank you.
All right.
We can get the spellings of their names?
Yep, I'll pass
Yeah.
it down.
Got it, excellent.
Good.
Yes, I
Sir,
know.
in the back, come over a little bit. Good. I want to make sure I see everybody. This is going to be tough, but I don't know.
All right, thank you all for allowing that transition.
What's the story that was done? That-
Thank you. Love it. See you. All right.
Can we ask a question about Monday and your proposal, what you would like the legislature to do to change state law? The folks in law enforcement say you don't need to change law. The commissioner has the right to fire people. Why doesn't he fire people?
I think that's a question that would better be suited for him. My goal, after taking a look at with my team at the Law Enforcement Officers Bill of Rights and the way it's been used, is, and after hearing from the community that they wanted the police commissioner to have more authority, we put forth a package including a change in the law. The authority that is there is a contractual authority, and contracts can change. I think having the enforcement of law gives the commissioner additional tools and more authority.
I'd like to ask about state center. There seems to be some, I don't know, confusion in my mind about whether the city can move forward without the Hogan administration being on board. The pilot was approved today. Pilots need to go through the city council, correct? And that hasn't happened. Where are we? Do we need the Board of Public Works to sign off on anything before?
I think they do,
Yeah.
but we're doing everything that we can to
Okay.
put together the foundation pieces for them to be able to move forward. This is, as you know, this is something that is very important to the community. I was very pleased to have so many members of the community who were there today who are supporting this project moving forward. It has the potential to be a real catalyst for economic development in that community, and I'm very hopeful that it will move forward. And again, we're doing everything that we can to push, to move it further, to use a football analysis
But
down the field.
what your office is saying is that phase 1 has been approved and is ready to go. Is it ready to go? Could the developer break ground tomorrow and build phase 1 of this project?
I don't have that answer. I can get you that answer.
Okay.
While we're on the subject of state matters, you'll be heading to Annapolis later today for the State of the State.
Yes.
What are you looking forward to Governor Hogan saying, or what are you expecting him to say?
I think I'm just interested in what his priorities will be for this session, and hopefully he'll lay out what his priorities are for the next 4 years. I mean, I think every new governor in the first State of the State address has an opportunity to set the tone for how he'd like to work with the legislature, the things that he would like to see, and I'm just waiting to hear. I'm not looking for any, key things. I know that there are not going to be any big, like funding decisions, and probably won't be announced. But so I just have the natural curiosity that I'm sure many people have that will be listening.
Excuse me. Do you think that there's still the bipartisan love in Annapolis that we've seen from after Hogan's victory to about now?
I hope so. I mean, listen, people send us, whether it's to City Hall or to Annapolis, to work and to represent their interests and to move our jurisdictions forward. I don't think anyone believes that partisan bickering is part of that work. Differences are expected. But as public servants, we're expected to work through those differences to look for opportunities to make progress. And that's what I hope continues to happen.
I'd like to circle around with it at the State Center.
Mm-hmm.
Talking with private entities, they've expressed concern that State Center doesn't jive with trying to revitalize the west side. How do those two work in your mind, and do you see them as competing interests?
I think I don't think they're competing interests at all. I think so the whole notion of our anchor institution strategy is to grow from strengths, right? These anchor institutions. And State Center has the ability to be an anchor project in West Baltimore. I think it's a perfect complement to a nearby project on what we're doing in the West Side, in the University Partnership area. I think we have to figure out how not to think so small, that kind of crabs in the barrel mentality that when you see something new, it means that something that exists has to fail. I don't think that that's the case. And that was that same mentality that was taken when I first became mayor about there was this conflict or this growing schism between the development that was happening in Harbor East and the center of downtown. This notion is that both areas can't thrive, but in opposition to that way of thinking, I put together the task force that I love so much, and the downtown group, the downtown task force, worked to assess the office vacancy and also assess the residential strength in that area. And through that task force, they recommended the 15-year apartment tax credit. And we have seen since I signed that legislation a lot of development. We have more than 2,000 units of apartments that are in the pipeline, and we've seen that by reinventing the center downtown area as a place where you can work and live and play, both of those areas can thrive. So again, I think we have to look for ways for State Center to thrive as well as the West Side.
Mayor, in your legislative proposals, this is kind of related. You have a law that will allow the city to convey a pilot to an LLC, but LLCs are notoriously opaque. Are there any provisions in that legislation for transparency? I mean, technically, an LLC could be awarded a pilot, and we wouldn't really know who the owners are. Is there anything in the bill? I
don't know if there's anything in the bill that would lend itself to more transparency, but we can certainly take a look at that and have my team get back to you.
Do you have any concerns about that? I mean, this LLC thing makes it very difficult for us to really know.
Well, I think I'd have to find an answer to your question before I find out whether it rises to the level of concern.
Do you have an updated timeline or updated goal in your mind for breaking ground on State Center or any?
I think I don't know what the timeline is. I know that we're going to continue to push and do everything that we can to move the project forward. If there's a timeline that my team knows about, I can make sure that Kevin gets you that info.
Have you spoken to the governor's office about your plans? I mean, have you?
Yes, about the State Center.
But specifically, this idea that you're moving forward on some level. What has he said to you about this? Anything? specific?
Nothing specific, but yes, I expressed my desire to see the project move forward and made sure that Governor Hogan knows that the State Center is a priority economic development project for me.
And what did he say to you?
That he understood that. I mean, didn't say much more.
Can you talk a little bit about how you came up with the idea of a personal property tax credit for supermarkets and food deserts?
So I've worked really hard to address the issue of food deserts in Baltimore City, and through my work on the Conference of Mayors, we've worked on this issue across the country. We know that in too many parts of our country, and it surprisingly, while in Baltimore 1 in 5 individuals, people live in a food desert, we have some places around the country where they're providing food for the country, agricultural communities that don't have access to fresh fruit and vegetables themselves. So, we've been looking at creative ways that we can get more healthy, affordable food in those communities that are underserved. In Baltimore, we have health disparities, we have life expectancy disparities, and we know that access to healthy food contributes to your well-being and your longevity. So we have to continue to look for innovative ways to create incentives, and this is just another way that my team has come up with an idea to put on the table to try to create those incentives and bring more opportunities. We've already expanded the use of EBT cards of food stamps in farmers markets. We have the virtual supermarket. We've worked with the urban agriculture community to not just to create more urban farms, but to connect them with corner stores and other retail venues to encourage them to get out into the community and increase the access. And the tax credit is just another in a series of things that we're doing to try to improve food access in our communities.
We do one more guy.
This isn't a real question that has much of an answer, but
Then don't feel compelled to ask.
So just to be clear, the pilot has not been approved by the city council, correct? It needs to go there next. That's the next step for state.
I believe so. I believe that's the next
I'll
step.
get you.
Okay.
Can you send this all in, just in terms of your understanding where the status is? Because we understand that there's a meeting, the story was that before O'Malley left office, the Board of Public Works deferred whatever.
Yeah.
So I'll get it for you.
Okay. And then here's a real question.
No, you use your
The
last
school
one on
system
nothing.
says 393 teachers are going to have to be laid off as a result of these education cuts. How devastating is that to the city of Baltimore?
I mean, we've talked about this before. I don't think the recommended cuts make sense when we're trying to protect the progress that we've made in Baltimore City public schools. And I'm not the only one saying that. We have legislators and educators across the state who have stepped up and said that the proposed cuts in education would be severely damaging to our communities. You can't grow a state where there isn't strong public education, and you can't balance the budget on the back of vulnerable families.
Thank you.
So this is the 4 gentlemen, their names, if you want to pass it
great.
around.